Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Chelsea transfer news. We're going to be talking today about Carney Chukwuemeka, Ben Chilwell, Murillo from Nottingham Forest, Calafiori, a big name player that Chelsea may be looking to buy over the course of the next few days. If you're not yet subscribed to the George Benson football channel, I'd love to ask you to do so. Yesterday we made a video talking about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, a new signing that Chelsea have made, 30 million quid from Leicester City, and the knock-on effect of that we learnt a few days ago when Chelsea's interest in Dewsbury-Hall was announced was that Carney Chukwuemeka could be a player that misses out if this is in fact going to be the signing. Carney Chukwuemeka has a 40 million quid release clause at Chelsea. We'll discuss that one here first. We begin. Carney Chukwuemeka's contract includes £40 million release clause. Chelsea insist on their position not to allow the talented midfielder to leave on loan. Every approach for potential loan in recent months has been rejected so far. Carney Chukwuemeka, I really like him. I think he's a talented footballer. I think last season, if he wasn't so unfortunate in that injury that he got against West Ham, where he scored a brilliant goal, and then we didn't see him play for months on end, I think he actually could have had a really big say in Chelsea's season. I'm not saying that if he'd have stayed fit, we'd have got into the Champions League, Pochettino would still be the manager. All of that is a little bit too heavy of an onus to put on the importance of such a young player. But when it comes to talent, when it comes to ability, I think Carney's got it. And when we're seeing here that there's a £40 million release clause, remember Chelsea bought him for 20 million. I'm also looking at this and I'm thinking, it's quite low for a player that actually does have a really high ceiling. So it proves that Chelsea are literally going to be bringing in so many players for around that 20 million mark, where we don't really care how good they become. We just know that we need them to turn over X amount of money so that we're in the green when it comes to the finances, which to me is a big concern. 40 million quid though right now for a player that literally cannot stay fit is not going to happen. The only teams that could potentially afford a £40 million Chukwuemeka transfer would be Premier League clubs. AC Milan have been the recent side that have been linked to sign Carney Chukwuemeka. They wanted him on loan. They didn't want to pay any money for this loan either. And that's another issue that Chelsea are going to come across here. When we're looking at the footballing market and we're trying to spend low fees on high potential players with high ceilings that we can sell for greater values at a later date, you've got to remember that most of the money is staying in the Premier League. So Premier League clubs are going to be looking at Chelsea as a mid-table side, and after 2 years of Chukwuemeka basically hugging the medical table, we're not going to get 40 million quid for him. So when Chelsea have bought in Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall for 30 million, and then Chukwuemeka is probably one of the obvious ones that if you expect Dewsbury-Hall to stay fit, he's worked with Enzo Maresca, clearly positionally fits a system significantly more than the surface of what Chukwuemeka could do. It was obvious that Chelsea were going to be looking to sell him. Now the question is, will there be a club, you could argue bold enough, you could also say maybe stupid enough, to spend £40 million to sign Carney Chukwuemeka this summer when he's not really done anything at Chelsea since he signed from Aston Villa. Let's be real, he's shown moments of promise, but all he's done is get injured and be injured. So I think Chelsea here, we might be just barking up the wrong tree. It might be an idea to let Carney Chukwuemeka go out on loan if Maresca doesn't see him getting any minutes. Because if I'm being honest, I do think Chukwuemeka at 40 million, if he can stay fit, would be an absolute bargain. So my thoughts on this one to wrap this story up. I don't want any club to activate Chukwuemeka's release clause at £40 million. I do think it's going to be very difficult, even if he is fit, for him to get minutes this season, based on what we're seeing Chelsea already do by confirming signings such as Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall at the beginning of the transfer window. It's going to be a difficult season for Carney Chukwuemeka, but I don't see anyone paying £40 million release clauses for a player that at the moment just cannot stay fit. We move. The next story that I want to discuss here is Chelsea's plan to use Mark Guehi in and around the senior squad for the upcoming season. The 18-year-old has also detailed a chat he had with Enzo Maresca upon signing a 5-year contract at Stamford Bridge. Look, this one to me it's obvious. We've already got the data at Chelsea Football Club to show what this Mark Yu signing means. Maybe Mark Yu is a significantly better player, significantly more talented player than David Washington. But David Washington, so often last season, was in and around the Chelsea squad. And even when there was a genuine opportunity that we either needed a striker on the field or we'd already won games, Pochettino just didn't want to bring him on. And I think that this could be another one of those deals where even though Mark Yu costs less money than David Washington, I don't believe for 1 second that Chelsea are looking at this 18-year-old striker from Barcelona who, yes, there's been a couple of moments where even your likes of Robert Lewandowski on the bench at Barcelona was like, this kid looks pretty good. I don't think he's ready right now to fire Chelsea to a Champions League finish. And maybe he is. Maybe this is the masterstroke of all masterstrokes from Chelsea Football Club. I said yesterday I think it could be a genius move to sign Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, but he's 25 years old. He's been performing at a decent level for a couple of years. Mark Yu is 18, and I certainly think that Chelsea will also be looking at other strikers in this transfer window. I think if we're not, then I think it's absolute lunacy to give a 5-6 year contract to Enzo Maresca and give him an 18-year-old to fix the issue that we have not had a consistent striker. Credit once again to Nicholas Jackson, great return in his first season, but to rely on him to keep on converting, keep on scoring, when some of the misses we saw last season from him, we absolutely cannot believe that that is the answer. Chelsea still need a striker, and that is why when Fabrizio Romano says we're going to be busy in the coming days, I don't just think it's going to be the Dewsbury Halls, the Mark Hughes, the players that have already come in, Amari Kellerman, who, to be quite honest, maybe he also might be good, but am I also going to be sat here, probably not in the same hire car, but in a year or two's time, Chelsea get 25 million important fee for Amari Kellerman? It's the same situation as Chukwuemeka. We're bringing in players here with the hope that we can sell them in 2 years' time for an extra 5, 10, 15, 20 million. That's the truth of the matter. Now then, the main story of today's Chelsea news video. Chelsea and Arsenal really interested in Riccardo Calafiori. No negotiations or proposals yet. Chelsea could tempt Bologna by including a player. It's funny that. It's important to see what the player wants. The problem won't be the salary. The race is open. I think I saw somewhere online that Riccardo Calafiori is currently on about €15,000 a week. So I think whatever Chelsea or Arsenal, if that is the case, will be offering, will be in excess of what is currently being played at Bologna. Going to stick up here some statistics for Riccardo Calafiori on the screen. As you can see, he is in the top 1% for assists for centre-backs in European football. Shot-creating actions also very high, as well as interceptions. These stats for me are very exciting. When we look at Riccardo Calafiori, he went into the Euros on the back of a man-of-the-match performance for Bologna, and I think it was a 3-3 draw against Juventus, and he scored 2 goals. Since then, Italy have had a poor tournament, but Calafiori looked like a serious player. Picked up 2 yellow cards, got himself an assist in the group stage too. But we're talking here about a player that has a really high potential, really high ceiling. And last year at Bologna, he's 22 years old, but it was a breakthrough season, helping Bologna be one of the most difficult sides to break down in Serie A and getting them into the Champions League. When you look at him, I think I read somewhere that there is a big story about it's just the aesthetic of him. He's fully tattooed, he's got long hair, looks a bit like a Maldini of the past. Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of people are buying into this, but I do think we're talking about a seriously talented centre-back here. We've heard that Chelsea want a left-footed centre-half as well this summer. He can also play at left-back, but he is a centre-back predominantly. My concern with this would be, what does it do to a Levi Colwill? I think Levi would absolutely be ready this season if he can stay fit to step into that left centre-back role at Chelsea. So, yes, we can't just rely on having one left-footed player. We need to be able to have a couple. Calafiori, I just look at it and I think, well, if Arsenal are also in the run-in, he's then got Champions League football. He could stay at Bologna for another year, play Champions League football there for the Italian side, and then maybe join the Premier League next season after another solid season, where it might be another one of those cases where he might not be ready right now for the Premier League. And I think that is where my concern would lie from a Chelsea perspective. As much as I think he's a quality player, I saw a lot of him last season, and I've seen him at the Euros, and I think, you know what, this guy could be the real deal. When you look at those stats that I'll put up on the screen again to my side here, he could become a really serious player, and he's already becoming a serious player. So my concern would be that we absolutely have to break the bank to get this one done. And again, the same story that I keep on talking about all summer long. If we're going to break the bank for players that we're taking risks on again and not answering the goal scorer, the striker, or the goalkeeping issue that we have potentially at the club, then I absolutely think we're barking up the wrong tree, and we should only expect Enzo Maresca to struggle because we're not prioritising the right signings at the club. It is my opinion, but I think a lot of you agree with me. I've seen the comments that you guys have been saying. We want a new keeper. We want a new striker. Calafiori would be a fantastic signing. It's all about exactly what that fee would be. We move into a related story here because once again, we're talking about another centre-back. But Nottingham Forest want £70 million for Brazilian centre-back Murillo. Murillo is another left-footed defender who has been on Chelsea's radar, but his asking price is considered too high. This is not a surprise to me whatsoever because Murillo is a good centre-half, had a really good season with Forest. Again, you can see his stats numbers here next to me on the screen once more. Really good season, decent player, but once again, I think 70 million. Forest know the only teams that are going to be able to afford that would be Premier League sides. They also know that the likes of Chelsea are coming knocking on the door wanting a left-footed centre-back, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if when all of these clubs like your Nottingham Forest are putting valuations of what they would expect from a player, they're probably looking at Chelsea thinking, these guys might actually be daft enough to spend that much money on this player. So Murillo's another option. I'm not really convinced by this one. I'd much prefer Riccardo Calafiori to sign for Chelsea if we are indeed buying a left-footed centre-back. The final story of the day is Ben Chilwell. We've got to talk about Chilwell here today. Top Premier League clubs want to sign Ben Chilwell this summer. To be honest, I think this would be Manchester City. I'm not sure, maybe it could be an Arsenal, potentially as well, in need of another left-back, but Ben Chilwell at Chelsea has been a downhill slope for a while. I think Chilwell is one of those players where when he is fully fit, when he's firing, he's a brilliant attacking left-back, but I just don't think he's been anywhere near good enough and consistent enough now for some time. I think if a decent bid were to come in for Ben Chilwell this summer, then I think with the injury record and the fact that, again, he's another one of those players that it would be a massive risk for any Premier League club or just any club in general to sign Ben Chilwell and look at him and be like, that is the answer to a left-back. Because he can't stay fit. He's had an issue with injuries and being fit ever since he joined Chelsea. It's been a disaster, really, when you think about how many games and how many minutes he's missed. And then as a result of all of those injuries, he's just not the same player that he once was. So my thoughts on this one, if a good offer was to come in, then I think Chelsea should consider it. It would then also mean that we need another left back. And I'm going to talk in probably the next video or the video after that one about there's a lot of issues right now with Chelsea where a lot of the players that we're talking about selling here, Chilwell, Chukwuemeka, when they're fit and when they're firing, they can potentially be top quality players for Chelsea. There is also an issue that a lot of the issues that Chelsea have is that we chop and change everything on too consistent of a basis. We're selling too many players too often, bringing in too many players too often, and it is the fact that the squad is constantly changing. The personalities in the dressing room are taking too much time to get used to. Is this one of the reasons why Chelsea have been consistently bad and therefore inconsistent with our ability to keep hold of managers and keep hold of a core squad? Since these new owners have come in, we have literally ripped apart a Champions League winning squad. Yes, maybe we needed to do that, but to the extent that we have, when you keep getting rid or trying to get rid of the most influential members of the dressing room, Gallagher being one, Chilwell being one, I can fully expect it would be another season where we're kind of stagnant, middle of the table, players getting used to one another, new manager coming in, getting used to his surroundings, getting used to his players. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. But Chilwell, he's just never fit, is he? So are we going to keep him around just to be that figure that everyone likes in the dressing room? Can't do that for very long, can we? Your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video today. Sorry we're not in the GBFC offices. I'm back in the UK before we go to the US for the pre-season tour. And I'm currently sat in the hire car because it's the only place where we get the natural light that we need. I'll see you guys in a bit. Come on, you Blues.